English 121, Polishing the Argument, from the Allen and Bacon Guide, pages 444 to 451. Writers need from closed-form prose an ability to predict what is coming as well as regular fulfillment of those predictions. Writers will often then lay out the big picture of their essay with the title and the introduction, and then writers often return to the big picture in the conclusion of their essay. Your book discusses a few strategies as to what to avoid in your closed-form prose, including what the book refers to as the topic, title, and funnel introduction format. In this case, the writer provides a topic title which merely names the topic area but doesn't forecast the problem being addressed. And from there, the introduction then starts with broad, vapid generalizations. An example of the topic, title, and funnel introduction can be seen here, where the writer begins with a title that merely lays out the topic rather than a problem, and then a very broad introduction with very vapid generalizations before moving into the actual thesis statement. In order to avoid topic, title, and funnel introductions, your book then talks about a few strategies for how to write more effective titles, introductions, and conclusions. When creating effective titles, remember these strategies. Good titles follow the principle of old before new information. You want to provide something old, a word or phrase that hooks into a reader's existing interests, followed by something new, which is a word or phrase that forecasts the writer's problematic question, thesis, or purpose. Also try to nutshell your argument. Think about how your title forces you to see the project's big picture. From there, you can try these strategies. First, try stating or implying the question that your essay addresses, such as, how clean and green are hydrogen fuel cell cars? Or you can state or imply your essay's actual thesis, such as in the example of a title that would state reward work, not wealth. Or you can use a two-part title where you present on the left words that arouse the reader's interest, followed by a colon, and then on the right the essay's question, thesis, or summary of purpose. An example of that strategy would be a title like Coping with Hurricane Katrina, Psychological Stress and Resilience Among African American Evacuees. From the title, you want to move on to writing an effective introduction that will lead your reader into the rest of your essay. Because the thesis forecasts new information in the essay, your thesis statement will usually come at the end of the introduction. The problem or question that the thesis addresses will typically then precede the thesis. This is the old information that the reader needs in order to understand the conversation surrounding the issue. A typical closed-form introduction has the following shape: your problem, or old information, followed by the new information. But the length and complexity of your introduction is a function of how much your reader knows and cares about the issue or the question or problem that your paper addresses. At the end of the introduction, then, use your thesis to summarize the whole argument, including the alternative view that you're trying to change. So remember, for your closed-form introductions, start with the problem or the old information, and then follow that up with your thesis, which will present new or surprising information to your reader. These are the elements of a typical closed-form introduction. First of all, you want to have an opening attention grabber. If you aren't sure that your reader is already interested in your problem, you'll need to include a dramatic vignette, a startling fact or statistic, an arresting quotation, an interesting scene, or something else that hooks your reader's interests. Or you can provide an explanation of the question being investigated. If your reader already knows and cares about the problem, then you need to merely summarize it. If you aren't sure whether your audience fully understands or cares about the problem, however, then you do need to explain it in more detail. You can also start by providing some background information. This would include any definitions of key terms, summaries of events, or factual details that readers would need in order to understand the problem. This would also include reviews of what other scholars have said about the problem. And then finally, you want to include a preview of where your paper is heading. Create a map for your readers as they move throughout your argument. This preview initiates the process of forecasting and fulfillment that begins with a statement of thesis and continues throughout the essay wherever the writer addresses the parts outlined in the beginning. Remember, at the end of your introduction, you want to use your thesis to summarize the whole argument, including an although clause at the beginning that summarizes the alternative view that you're trying to change. Finally, conclude your argumentative closed-form writing with effective conclusion paragraphs. Conclusions can best be understood as complements to introductions. In both the introduction and the conclusion, writers are concerned with the essay as a whole, or the big picture, more than with any given part of the essay. So in your conclusion, the writer helps the reader move from those parts of the essay back to the big picture, or the whole. The writer's second job in the conclusion is to help the reader understand the importance and significance of the essay through reflection. Keep these strategies for writing effective titles, introductions, and conclusions as you polish your argumentative closed-form writing.